So that gets us into our 9/11 updates. Osama is hiding in Pakistan, and he's being protected by, as they said, by the ISI. Longtime listeners will know we've broken down many times the intimate connections between Inter-Services Intelligence of Pakistan and the Central Intelligence Agency of America. Could this be an October surprise? We're entering the territory. Strange things happen during a full moon. NATO official says bin Laden and deputy hiding in northwest Pakistan. So let's move from one boogeyman to another, where Ahmadinejad calls for, of course, a 9/11 investigation.
On the second day of his visit to Lebanon, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has met with Lebanese politicians in Beirut to discuss the latest developments in the Middle East. Ahmadinejad arrived in Lebanon on Wednesday to a rapturous welcome organised by the Shiite military group Hezbollah. His country is the main patron of the group, the most powerful military force in Lebanon. During a meeting with Lebanese politicians on Thursday morning, Ahmadinejad repeated controversial remarks on the September the 11th, 2001 terror attacks in the US.
An event called September the 11th occurred, which was used as an excuse for occupying the region. And then when we tell them, let the truth about the incident be investigated, they get angry and start threatening. They don't allow any investigations. Because if the truth about the Holocaust on September the 11th was revealed, it would become clear that all these are just excuses for occupying our region.
Meanwhile, the UN peacekeeping force in southern Lebanon and the Lebanese army have increased the number of troops on the border with Israel during Ahmadinejad's trip to the area.
So they tie in some of the other geopolitical updates, but of course, having Ahmadinejad as the main spokesman for 9/11 Truth is, of course, very useful to our misleaders and gangsters and banksters. He, of course, just mentioned the Holocaust. You know, all he would need to do is just throw in a mention about global warming being a hoax, and that would be the hat trick. But in reality, Ahmadinejad is not the only one calling for a new investigation of the catalyzing catastrophic events of 9/11. Here are just some of the latest. Maritime Union of Australia Secretary Kevin Bracken calls 9/11 a conspiracy. This from dailytelegraph.com.au. So, an Australian politico being swept up into the anti-9/11 question furor. There are some videos from the intelhub.com. 9/11 Truth raids University of Florida homecoming parade. And a story that I suppose we could file under Air Farce 1, reminding us of the Obama gang's stunt flying an Air Force One lookalike around Ground Zero. But this time it was on the West Coast, where a 747 stunt over the Golden Gate Bridge reminds onlookers of 9/11. That's from The Telegraph, and you can also just watch some of the raw video. A commentary piece from Colleen Rowley posted on the Los Angeles Times website, latimes.com, WikiLeaks and 9/11, what if? As we're awaiting the most massive intel leak in history from WikiLeaks, Colleen Rowley, a 9/11 whistleblower, asked the question, if we had something like WikiLeaks, could something like 9/11 have been prevented? We'll never really have the answers to those questions. MSNBC getting into it with a little poll question. Do you believe 9/11 conspiracy theories? Of course, giving no context or any kind of variance in what you want to say. But there's also an opinion piece, an amazing, well-documented piece on digitaljournal.com. Time to review post-9/11 mentality and face reality. As we say week after week, 9/11 Truth is not going away and has not gone away and is only going to get larger and larger as more folks realize on all sides of all the phony political spectrum set up for us that 9/11 Truth ends wars. 9/11 Truth ends phony, corrupt Congress and administrations. 9/11 Truth takes the favorite tool of the elites and oligarchs, false flag terrorism, and shows it to everybody. Like a Darren Brown, if you will. But a great piece from foreignpolicyjournal.com. Newly disclosed documents shed more light on early Taliban offers and Pakistan role. U.S. government documents obtained through FOIA requests recently posted on the George Washington University National Security Archive shed some additional light on talks with the Taliban prior to 9/11, including with regard to the repeated Taliban offers to hand over Osama bin Laden and the role of Pakistan before and after the attacks. So there is something to Barbara Starr and CNN reporting the Pakistan connections, because we know they're there. Just as we know Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons because we had the receipts. More documentation leading to direct foreknowledge and provocative, catalyzing events leading up to 9/11. And again, they never report on the Taliban's. Man, if you guys show us some evidence, we'll try and hand over bin Laden to you. Tim Osman, OSS man. But so many amazing things spilling out around 9/11 questions, digging into the past, and this story got quite a bit of coverage, but not nearly enough, and there are clips, but you'll have to catch them yourself. Al-Qaeda mastermind invited to Pentagon after 9/11. Al-Qaeda terror mastermind Anwar al-awlaki, AWLAKI, and we do provide a handy-dandy link for you to his entry on the complete 9/11 timeline thanks to historycommons.org. Al-Qaeda leader dined at the Pentagon just months after 9/11. The man who helped plot the aborted Christmas Day bombing, the Fort Hood shooting, the Times Square bombing attempt, and who also preached to the alleged 9/11 hijackers dined at the Pentagon just months after 9/11, documents obtained by Fox News show. American-born cleric al-awlaki's role as a key figure in almost every recent terror plot targeting the U.S. and Canada, coupled with his visit to the Pentagon, only confirms our long-stated position that al-awlaki is a chief terrorist patsy handler for the CIA. He is the federal government's premier false flag agent. Documents exclusively obtained by Fox News, including an FBI interview conducted after the Fort Hood shooting in November 2009, state that al-awlaki was taken to the Pentagon as part of the military's outreach program to the Muslim community in the immediate aftermath of the attacks, states the report, and there are links to PDFs for you. I'm sure it's just an accident. I'm sure it was also an accident that Portergoss and others were meeting with ISI Mahmoud Ahmed, the alleged wirer of $100,000 to Muhammad Atta, who was alleged to, of course, have been identified by Abel Danger and Lieutenant Anthony Schaefer in burning his new book, Operation Darkheart. It's all quite the rich tapestry. Broken down quite well with another great article from Paul Craig Roberts, posted up on Sign of the Times. The war on terror is a fraud. That's quite simple. Our last 9/11 update note is a positive one, I suppose. Anonymous donor leaves $10,000 in cash for 9/11 memorial in New York. This from DNAinfo.com. It would be a hell of a lot better if they would have left $10,000 cash for the dying first responders, not for some occult memorial obelisk scene to be built. So there are just some of the deluge of constant fleshing out of the possible, probable realities of the events of September 11th, now 9+ years ago. We'll now turn to another story that we covered on the latest episode of NewWorldNextWeek.com. Pilot refuses naked body scanner and pat-down Or, as The Atlantic notes, one pilot's revolt, the latest security theater update. A pilot who refused to submit to a full body scan or the alternative pat-down going through airport security said the procedure violates his rights. Michael Roberts, a pilot for Express Jet Airlines, refused a full body scan last week at a TSA checkpoint in Memphis at the Memphis International Airport. Again, this connects to so many things. As we talked about al-awlaki and the underpants bomber, of course, that being exposed as a drill with a handler. The well-dressed man. Kurt Haskell's story as a witness to the underwear bomber. Debunked. All the bizarre connections to the Hassan Fort Hood shooting, including the most recent thing we already read to you in this episode, where a soldier was ordered to delete videos he took of this shooting. We're going to close out this episode with a strange case of the latest mass murder contagion drills gone live shooter events. But I digress. Opting out of scanning is permitted, but those who opt out must receive an enhanced pat-down from a TSA employee. Michael Roberts noted that pat-down is misleading. This is just one case. But imagine the power in numbers. Pilot refuses naked body scanner and pat-down.
He's the pilot who refused to go through one of those new full body scans at Memphis International. He wasn't interested in option B either, a manual pat-down, which he says is like getting groped. The TSA said, sorry then, you're not getting through security. So tonight the pilot goes one-on-one about his personal protest.
That's outrageous, and I'm not okay with it.
What ExpressJet pilot Michael Roberts is calling outrageous are these full-body scanners.
It's just not necessary to see people's naked bodies.
So when the TSA told him to go through, just like these folks are doing, he said no.